Is Jacob Misiorowski the next big fantasy pitching ace? What if the next big fantasy ace is already throwing 102 in AAA and barely anyone in your league has noticed yet? Could Jacob Misiorowski be your secret weapon before the rest of your league even catches on? That's the question on every savvy fantasy player's mind right now, and for good reason. This kid is already lighting up radar guns and striking out hitters like it's a video game, and yet he's still flying just under the radar.
Got him! Strikeout number one for me. On the fly ball to left, the first out here in this second inning. Got him!
Today we're diving deep into why Jacob Misiorowski might just be the stash that wins you your league, or the kind of risky pick you tell stories about for years. Let's find out together.
Got him! Misiorowski with a couple of Ks, and he strands a Pirate at third.
And this is, of course, just his third major league start. It's the first time he's going on 4 days rest, and so they're going to be mindful of the pitch count.
And hey, if you're into discovering the next big fantasy stars before everyone else, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more deep dives like this one. If you've never heard of Jacob Misiorowski before the last few weeks, don't worry, you're not alone. But trust me, this is a name you're going to want to remember. Jacob was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the second round of the 2022 MLB draft, straight out of Crowder College in Missouri. That might not sound like the typical path of an elite pitching prospect, but that's because he originally committed to play at LSU, but when the Brewers came calling, he bet on himself and turned pro early. At 6 feet 7 inches and around 190 pounds, Jacob is built like a skyscraper on the mound. His long frame and wiry build give him a deceptive, almost intimidating presence, and his delivery comes at hitters like a lightning bolt.
Octane.
And a swing and a miss and a curveball. And it is showtime right now in Milwaukee with Miz on the mound. This is as impressive as you can possibly.
Since signing, Jacob's rocketed through the Brewers farm system, currently pitching for their AAA affiliate in Nashville as of mid-2025. That alone is impressive for a 23-year-old with less than 3 full seasons of professional experience. And he's not just progressing, he's making noise. Scouts, analysts, and fans alike have been buzzing about his potential since his first pro start. His name is now showing up on virtually every top 50 prospect list, often as the highest-ranked pitcher in the Brewers system. So who is Jacob Misiorowski?
This is that dude.
He's that dude.
He's not just another tall kid with a big arm. He's a pitcher with the confidence, tools, and upside to force his way into the Brewers' plans and possibly your fantasy roster sooner than anyone expected.
Time, and his very first pitch in the big leagues is a strike, and away we go. His first bullet at 100 miles an hour. Okay.
You're probably wondering, why is everyone suddenly talking about Jacob Misiorowski? Simple. His stuff is electric, the kind of arsenal you usually only see from all-stars, not minor leaguers. Let's start with his fastball. The way he swings that arm is just unbelievable. You'd almost think you're watching a video game when you see that velocity in slow-mo.
With Miz on the mound. This is as impressive as you can possibly.
Misiorowski sits at 98 to 101 miles per hour, and he's touched 102 to 103 more than once. But it's not just speed. The pitch has serious life, riding up in the zone and blowing past even seasoned AAA hitters. His slides are a different conversation entirely. It's the kind of pitch that makes hitters buckle. It's a sharp, mid-80s breaker that dives out of the zone at the last second. When he's commanding it, it's practically unfair. And don't sleep on his changeup either. While it's still developing, it flashes real promise and gives him another way to keep hitters honest. Just look at what he did a couple of weeks ago against the Dodgers.
Two coming. Struck him out with a curveball. What a pitch. And another show of emotion as Misiorowski hops off the mound on his way to the dugout. He strands a leadoff double, and he struck out Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman.
12 strikeouts in that game is just sensational considering the pressure to live up to the hype and the media exposure, not to mention the big dogs he's got facing him at the other end. When you put this all together, you'll realize this guy could really be something in the coming months and years. His whiff rates are off the charts, and he's capable of absolutely dominating lineups when his mechanics are synced.
Got him.
Strikeout number 9 for Misiorowski.
Just a nasty breaking pitch. Curveball and get.
Scouts love him because he's not just a thrower, he's an athlete. For someone who is 6 feet 7 inches, he moves incredibly well and fields his position confidently. And let's not forget the intangibles: confidence, competitiveness, and the kind of swagger that makes you believe he belongs on a big league mound. When you watch him pitch, you can see why Brewers fans are calling him their next Corbin Burns and why fantasy players are already eyeing him as this year's breakout stash.
Always, yep. And he got him. Misiorowski, his best inning yet. Listen to this crowd. They stand up for the...
All right, before we all go running to add Jacob Misiorowski to our fantasy teams, it's only fair to talk about the risks, because even the most exciting prospects come with baggage. The biggest red flag? Control and command. Yes, his fastball is elite. Yes, his slider is nasty. But Misiorowski still struggles to consistently put pitches exactly where he wants them. His walk rates have hovered between 3.8 and 4.8 base on balls per 9, which means he's giving away a little too many free passes. Against minor league hitters, he can overpower his way out of jams. But big leaguers? They'll make him pay for those mistakes. Then there's the durability question. So far, he hasn't suffered any major injuries, which is encouraging. But with that wiry frame and the way he throws at maximum effort, it's fair to wonder how his arm and shoulder will hold up under a full MLB workload. History hasn't been kind to hard-throwing prospects who lack mechanical consistency. There's also the role question. Will the Brewers bring him up as a starter sooner rather than later? Or use him out of the bullpen at first to limit his innings and ease him in? If it's the bullpen, and it very well could be, that caps his fantasy ceiling in the short term. Finally, the mental side. We've seen plenty of prospects with elite tools flame out because they couldn't adjust to MLB hitters or handle the pressure. Does this mean you should avoid him? Absolutely not. However, it does mean you need to enter with realistic expectations. He's a high upside lottery ticket, the kind that could pay off big, but also the type that could frustrate you if you expect too much too soon.
And down he goes at 101. We are witnessing something special here in this kid.
Something pretty.
So the big question fantasy managers really care about: when is Jacob Misiorowski actually going to be a regular in the majors? The good news? He's already knocking on the door. After a strong showing in Double-A in 2024, Misiorowski began the 2025 season in Triple-A Nashville, facing the toughest minor league hitters and holding his own. He finally got his opportunity to have a taste of the major leagues on June 12th, and he hasn't looked out of place since. 5 starts, 2 allowed earned runs, and 3 hits across his first 16 innings is a pretty dominant way to announce yourself among the big boys. That's the kind of performance that puts you squarely in the conversation for a full-time call-up, especially when your fastball touches 102 miles per hour more often than it should.
To short. And he struck him out. Curveball on the inside corner. That's 11.
And here's the kicker. He has been added to the MLB All-Star games despite starting half a dozen games. While the news of his being added has caused quite the controversy, you can't really say he didn't merit it. It's not like they didn't invite about a dozen pitchers, all of whom declined before settling on him. Now, let's be realistic. If he becomes a regular in 2025, it'll most likely be as a reliever or in a spot start role. That's the Brewers' usual approach. They eased Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff into the majors the same way, protecting their arms and managing workloads. If all goes well, though, Misiorowski will enter spring training in 2026 with a legitimate shot to fully crack the rotation. And if his control continues improving, he could stick there for good. So the timeline? He already made his debut. Now it's time to earn a starting job. If anything crazy doesn't happen, Jacob could have the potential to anchor the Brewers' rotation for years.
Pitch. Breaking ball. Locked him up. Got him looking. A curveball, a knee buckler. Kim could not pull the trigger. And you can make it 10 strikeouts in 4 innings for Jacob Misiorowski tonight. All I can say.
All right, here's where things get really interesting for fantasy players. Jacob Misiorowski checks a lot of the boxes that fantasy managers dream about. Elite strikeout potential. He already made his debut and held his ground, and comparisons to some of the most dominant young pitchers in recent memory. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. It depends on your league type, roster construction, and risk tolerance. Let's start with why he's appealing: the strikeouts. Misiorowski's K rate is already elite. Remember, he just struck out 12 Dodger players in one game with incredible nerves of steel. Talent alone is not enough to do that. The intangibles are just as important, and this lad got all the good stuff in spades. Now the caution flags, the walks. If your league punishes WHIP or BBS harshly, you might want to wait. His control is improving, but it's not there yet. The roll. A bullpen role limits his value, and Milwaukee has been deliberate with its pitching prospects in the past. Playing time. He might only get called up for a few weeks, not enough to move the needle in shallow formats. So what should you actually do? Here's the breakdown. Dynasty leagues. If he's somehow unclaimed, grab him now. His long-term upside is worth the stash. Deep redraft leagues, 14+ teams. Absolutely worth a speculative add, especially now that he's been invited to the All-Stars. Standard leagues, 10 to 12 teams. More of a watch list candidate unless you've got bench space and can afford the gamble. Keeper leagues, worth holding if you can keep him cheaply into next season. At the end of the day, Misiorowski is a classic lottery ticket. He could pay off big if he's unleashed in the right role, or leave you frustrated if his control or workload limits him. But in fantasy baseball, sometimes it's the bold stashes that win leagues, and Misiorowski just might be one of those.
Third, and he sends one to center field on one pitch.
The steps, he's got it measured, makes the catch. It's a 1-2-3 fifth inning for Miss.
So, the final question is Jacob Misiorowski the next big fantasy pitching ace? Well, here's what we know. He's got the stuff, absolutely. A fastball that hits 102, a wicked slider, and the kind of strikeout ability that fantasy players drool over. He's also got the confidence, the frame, and the work ethic to keep climbing. But here's the thing. Aces aren't born overnight. The control needs to keep improving. The Brewers need to trust him in a starting role, and like any prospect, he'll have to adjust once he faces big league hitters who don't chase everything out of the zone. What we can say for sure is this: Misiorowski is one of the most exciting pitching prospects in baseball right now, and he's a name you're going to keep hearing. If you love taking chances and being the one who's ahead of the curve in your league, this is your guy. If you're more cautious, keep him on your radar and watch closely, because when the Brewers decide he's fully ready, the window to grab him will slam shut fast. One thing's certain, Jacob Misiorowski is coming. The only question is, are you ready when he does? If you enjoyed this breakdown, give this video a like and subscribe for more insider looks at the next generation of MLB stars.